2 podcasts that I recorded had no sound. I tried to record this morning's class and it just would not let me go live. So thank goodness I am here now. 10th of January 2020. Welcome. Happy New Year. Feels like we're quite late into the year to be saying that. And strangely, so many people I've spoken to have just kind of been like, nah, not really feeling New Year-y at all, which is interesting because it's only the Gregorian New Year. It is not the actual New Year. Our actual New Year is much later into the Gregorian year. It's as we go from winter into spring, nearer the equinox, when we are getting out of the sludge and the funk that is winter. So if you're not feeling it, that's okay. Do not force yourself into feeling anything that doesn't feel right for you. I've been easing myself in this year. End of the last year was interesting. Lost a dear friend who passed away very suddenly, quite unexpectedly. So that was quite a shock. My good friend Jack Monroe, who was on the podcast quite a while ago, she was meant to be coming on again, and it never quite happened. And I've been on her podcast and was meant to be on again, and it never happened. Sad times. A big loss to the therapist community. She was a leader in the field, highly intuitive, healing hands, healing soul, healing energy. So yeah, it's been a loss, definitely. Her funeral was on the 6th of January, so we were celebrating her life, and it felt very cathartic. Interestingly, she passed on solstice, which if she was going to pick any time to go, that was definitely her day, when we are at the shortest day of the year, when the real world and the spirit world are at the closest points. That lightness and darkness are at their closest points. So her choice to cross and pass at that time was perfect for her. We still have a few weeks before we're emerging out of Year of the Snake and into Year of the Horse. Now, I'm not sure if that was on one of the podcasts that had no sound. Apologies if you did listen to that, because I was having some good chat there, and we've lost connection and we're back. Year of the Snake is about shedding, it's about letting go, it's about clearing the path as we move into Year of the Horse. And if we think about horses, forward motion, strong, can be chaotic and fast, over energized, but they can also be steady and grounding. And if anybody's ever done any kind of equine therapy, I'm not 100% sure if I say that right, therapy where you're around horses, you need to be in a very calm and grounded and focused space for the horse to trust you, for the horse to be calm and happy and peaceful around you. So if you're coming into this year frantic and overstimulated, your horse is going to bolt out of the gate. So if you want to have that strong and stable and guiding force to come with you, now is the perfect time to be getting into this grounded energy. How can you calm yourself? How can you slow yourself down? Feels weird because all the messaging around New Year is New Year, New You, and get to the gym and build muscles and detox, blah, blah, whatever. But your soul energy is probably not feeling that. So listen to your soul. Your soul is wise. Your soul is part of your body. Trying to remember what I spoke about on the other previous podcast. One of them was thanking you for being there with me through 2025. So if you were here with me through 2025, thank you for being there. If you're new here, there are years worth of podcasts that you can go back and listen to. I've had some amazing conversations. I would encourage you to go and find the one with Jack Monroe and listen to that, because it was a great conversation. And She's now speaking to you from beyond. Um, the what else was I talking about? Yeah, if you are new here, click subscribe or follow or whatever it is that you're doing on whichever platform you're listening or watching to this, because that's how you get to know when new episodes come out. If you're on YouTube, there's a wee bell button. If you switch that to all, then any new episode or any new video that I put out will be put up there. I am talking a lot about fascia. I'm using that language now. I've always been talking about fascia. I've always talked about how every single thing in our body is connected, from the soles of the feet to the tips of the fingers to the crown of the head. I've always talked about that when I've been teaching classes. You can't affect one part of the body without affecting another. It's now become, certainly in my algorithm, fascia is the current buzzword. Last year it was lymph, this year it's fascia. I've been talking about these things for quite a few years. Fascia since I started in the industry back in 2009. But it's getting its moment of glory, it's getting its highlight, we're understanding so much about it. There is a lot of research and a lot of science going into it. There's a lot of the esoteric stuff being linked into maybe consciousness is actually the fascia. Maybe energy healing is actually the fascia. Maybe whatever the other esoteric things are. This is the fascia. This is the fascia. The fascia is amazing. It is incredible. It holds us together. It gives us our structure. It allows us to function through injury, through postural habits, through illness, through chronic inflammation. Our fascia gets changed. It adapts, it molds, it compresses to support whatever's going on in your body at that time. One of the most common things, or not common, one of the most obvious things that I talk about in my own body is when I had inflammation in my bowel down my left side, I used to sit leaning over into my right side. My right side of my body is now shorter than my left. My waist is really tight. If I press into my waist, the tissues there are really stiff. So I've spent the last 6 months really trying to unwind and untangle that to give me some balance back, to try and realign, because that shortening at my waist has also twisted my rib cage. That then impacts my breathing. That then impacts my nervous system. So I'm more in fight and flight, more than I already was. I was already in fight and flight all the time, but it's even more difficult for me to get into parasympathetic, into that rest and digest, because of this rotation, that twist. It's then twisting my pelvis, which is causing pain in my hips, which is disrupting my sleep. It's changing my walking gait, which is then causing other imbalances, because when I'm in the gym and I'm doing exercises to try and build some strength in my muscles, things are all lopsided, so then the muscles are all building differently and not as evenly as we would like them to be. Now, our bodies are not symmetrical by nature. When we cut ourselves open, none of the organs are sitting perfectly in line and symmetrical with each other. So to try and get complete symmetry in the body is an unrealistic goal. But when you're really twisted round, it's almost like I've given myself a scoliosis. When you create that, it then has a knock-on effect. It affects how your organs work. It affects how your digestion works. It affects your mood. It affects everything. Because something else that's often talked about is how fascia stores your trauma. Fascia stores all your memories. When we start to work with fascia, start to move, start to release things, we can have emotions come up and move through us. Now, part of what I understand this to be is every time we have an emotion, it triggers a chemical cascade. There are hormones and chemicals that get released within our bodies as part of that emotional response to allow us to go into fight and flight, or to allow us to connect and communicate with other people. And that's amazing. But what can happen is if we hold it in, because from a societal point of view, especially for us that live in the West, particularly West Coast of Scotland, we are very bad at this. Suppress your emotions, have a drink. Suppress your emotions, have a cup of tea. We don't talk about that in this house. We don't show these emotions. We're not allowed to express ourselves in this way. Keep calm, carry on. You know, it's that stiff upper lip that the British have. And in West of Scotland, it feels like it's even more, it's a badge of honour to power on through. You're Scottish, you're Glaswegian, you're not allowed to show emotion in this way unless it's anything to do with football. So, to know that, and there is a book by a man called Besser Vandal Kolk, or Clock. It's a Dutch man, and that book is called The Body. The Body Keeps the Score. Some people absolutely despise this book and think it's absolute nonsense. Other people use it as their Bible. I read it, found it really interesting, and also thinking about how we hold ourselves, how we swallow down those emotions. And yeah, the body is holding on to that. There is so much. When we look currently at 2026, the high rates of issues in females around their periods, whether it's endometriosis, PCOS, infertility, heavy periods, painful periods. For generations, women have not been allowed to talk about their periods. For generations, women have been shamed. Now, if you think over generations that's been held in and locked in and held in and locked in, and every generation that's given birth is giving birth with a lot of this chemical transference. They talk about generational trauma, and for me, the way that my mind comes around it is all these hormones, all these chemicals have been created in mother. That's in the eggs, that's in the DNA, the genetic profiling, and then that goes into the next generation. And then depending on how that female has come through and dealt with life, then there's the next generation of stuff and the next. And this is not about point and blame at anybody, but if you think how women have been treated over millennia, it's been putting us down, pushing us down. The male way is the right way. So when you then get to the point as a female coming into the world and you're looking, thinking, shit, boys get life so much easier. I don't want to be a girl. I want to be like a boy. And you're denying your femininity and denying this. And then we're put on the pill because this is a great way to manage your symptoms. Heavy periods, painful periods. Oh, we'll put you on the pill, that will regulate it. But what they don't tell you is that will stop you from having periods. You will have synthetic hormones going through your system. You will have a bleed that's got nothing to do with your period. It's to do with the withdrawal of the hormone that you don't take for that week. And then you go back on and will completely fuck your whole system up. And then maybe you realise in time, because maybe you're in tune enough with your body to go, actually, this doesn't feel right. I don't want to do this. Or maybe you power on through because this is amazing. I don't have to have my period at inconvenient times. I don't have to do this. So much denial because periods are inconvenient, especially if they're bad periods, causing migraines. You're having to take time off work. You then start getting disciplined because you're having issues that then cause problems. Like, the world is fucking crazy. Why? It's something that's a completely natural process for 51% of the population. It's inconvenient for how society has been built. Because society has been built for men. And women have said, we want to come into this society. And basically it's been, oh, you can, but you have to follow our rules. So my mum's generation were probably the first generation that went back to work full time when kids were young. My mum went back to work when my wee brother started primary school. She was a teacher, so her school time matched our time. So she was still there for us outside of school hours and outside of her working hours. But that's a very tiny part of the population. There's lots of women who for so many reasons. They need to for their own sanity, they need to for financial reasons, they want to because it's become part of their identity, going back into the workplace. But that workplace hasn't been built around to accommodate the needs of the female cycle. We have this amazing 28-day cycle on top of our 24-hour cycle. Men have a 24-hour cycle. They probably have another cycle to do with testosterone, but it's not impacting their lives in the way that our cycle does. So I've gone right off in a tangent about this. Don't even know how I got there because I was talking about fascia. Anyway, yes, I know how I managed to go onto this topic. Oh, goodness. I've been off on one of my feminism, the feminist movement kind of fucked us up a wee bit. While yes, we should be allowed to work, did we need to do it under these conditions? Because so many women are burned out. That's where I was going with that. So, my mother's generation were probably the first generation that went to work. My generation, so the tail end of Gen X and into millennials, are probably the first generation where we have really been told by society, by influence, that you go to school, you go to university, you go to work, you focus on your career and then do all that other stuff later. So it's been we're denying all that feminine energy, we're denying all of our feminine needs because we have to succeed. And women have excelled in the workplace, but we're doing it on men's rules, which then impacts our physiology, our physical bodies. This is where I was going with this, because so many women now have hormonal issues with pre-perimenopause, potentially with fertility if you're trying to have the family route. So many women now are not having their kids until much, much later in life. I have a friend who had her baby at 47. She came out of giving birth to basically go straight into perimenopause, the late ends of perimenopause and into menopause. So she's then trying to deal with a baby while in the depths of the menopausal journey, hormone fluctuations, all the rest of that. Female peak fertility times probably in her early 20s. But in that time frame, we were told that that was the time for us to build our career, because we can wait till later, but physiologically we're not optimal. And then we have a whole load of other struggles. Now, I say this as somebody who never wanted children. Never, never, never. And I do look back now and go, why did I not want children? Is it because I look at life and go, it's too hard. It's too hard to do it all. I want to pick one lane. And, as it turned out, I didn't find my ideal partner until much later in life anyway. But I don't have that nature in me to want to nurture another human being. I find it really difficult to look after myself. I am a full-time job, never mind trying to bring another smaller person into the world. So we have these physiological issues. Issues are in your tissues, and it's fascia, because what's happened on top of all that stuff that's in the head, all that mental stuff, we have clamped down, we have squeezed into our abdomen, we've been trying to give ourselves six-packs, flat abs. Abs are made in the kitchen, get into the gym, smash the gym. Even when I did my degree in sport and exercise science, there was no conversation around the differences between male and female anatomy. There was no conversation around the different needs that females have in training to be in line with their cycle, to listen to their bodies, to be able to rest. Even when we talked about rest, we didn't really talk about what rest meant, what rest looked like, how that would be different for men and women. There's so much there that we really need to unpick. How do we get back being comfortable in femininity? What does that even mean? What does it mean to be in your feminine power? And this is exploration I'm having, this is conversations I'm having with myself, because I don't know what that means for me. And it's important for anybody living with any kind of health condition that's connected to that reproductive area, even if you've gone through the process of having a hysterectomy, there is now scar tissue within that womb area, but the energy of your womb is still there. In Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, they very much talk about if you have had an organ removed, the energy of the organ's there. And that's to do with the fascia. Because the fascia is still there. The fascia gets cut through and the organ is released from that. And then the hole is packed. And that hole then becomes packed with fascia. So that energy is still there. There's some people who believe that when in Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, when they're talking about meridian lines and nadi lines, that they are talking about fascia. When there's scar tissue, when there is adhesions there, we get this locking up. So we have, if you're seeing this on video, I am slotting my fingers in amongst each other. We have lots of fibres that run where they're kind of locked in. Now, if you get a tear in those fibres, when they link back together and kind of knot round each other to make that stronger, because the body goes, oh, there was an issue here, things tore apart, we need to make that stronger. How do we make it stronger? We make it thicker, we make it denser, we pack it in more. Now, what happens there is that then restricts your blood flow, your lymph flow, your interstitial fluid flow, all really important for your body to heal itself, for energy, nutrients to be passed around your body, and for the waste to be able to be removed out of your body. Super important. While there is all this talk around our fascia, it does so much. And I have been putting up a few videos into the channel on YouTube with some little sessions where we do some fascia release work using different modalities, different tools. I have for many years, I think since, when did I first get taught this? Maybe 2010, rolling out your foot on a tennis ball. I've been doing, that's working your fascia, working your feet, working your hands, essential places to start. So if you have no idea what you're doing, where to start, get a tennis ball or a golf ball or any kind of ball of that size and start rolling out your feet. 3 minutes per foot. Do that, and that's going to start to make a difference in how you walk, how you hold yourself, how you move. We want to start at the furthest away points from the centre of the body, which is hands and feet. Start in these places and just notice the changes that happen within your body. Now, I could go on and on and on talking about this all day, but your time is precious. And the sun has started to go down and the room is getting darker. And I don't want to have to go and start turning lights on to keep recording this podcast. So I'm going to love you and leave you for today's episode. If you have any thoughts on anything that I have said, I would love to know your thoughts and opinions. So please do leave a comment wherever you're listening to this, or drop me a message if you don't want things to be public. There are lots of times when I've been watching YouTube videos and the host has said, leave a comment, and I've gone to leave a comment and then I've thought, I don't know how to articulate this in writing because that's not my strength. So I haven't. And also because anything I watch on YouTube, if I comment on anything, it's leading back to my business page. And there's some things that I maybe want to comment on that I don't necessarily want linked to my business, just thoughts, opinions, ramblings in my mind. So that does stop me from putting comments publicly. But I'd love to hear from you. And if you don't want that comment to be public, do send me a private message. Okay, so I have got a few amazing guests lined up for the podcast in the near future. I have somebody who is a walking miracle. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I am recording that podcast in a couple of weeks. Very excited about that. I will be shouting about it everywhere. There is a whole library of past episodes that I would love you to go and check out. And I will come back to you on the next podcast. There are lots of movement things out there on my channel as well, so please do check them out. And have a wonderful day, week, month, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you on the next episode.